Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from the capital city of Abuja. I am Zainab Bella, and I'm certainly not alone as I introduce to you for the first time Dashan Husseina Husman. Hello, Husseina.
Hello, Zainab. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you and nice to be here as well. It is indeed a beautiful morning here. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak today. Now on the show, we bring you up to speed with latest happenings every morning on weekdays.
On Daybreak today, we'll be discussing the new malaria vaccine approved by the World Health Organization. We'll be joined by Dr. Iwotindeyo, Executive Secretary, FCT Primary Healthcare Board.
We'll also be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. But before we do that, let's take a look at October 11th on the world's history.
Well, there you have it today in history. Now, today is International Day of the Girl Child, and in 2020, Special Anti-Robbery Squad SAS unit was dissolved. And in 1960, Princess Alexandra of Kent arrived in Kaduna for a 4-day tour of northern Nigeria. And in 1960, a former British Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, wrote to Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, thanking him for Nigeria's gift of timber worth £1,000 for paneling and flooring of the junior common room of Churchill College. Quite interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Now, talking about the flooring, from the timber, given to from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Now, I still wonder. I just can't. I can actually imagine if every time they walk on the floors, they think, "Oh, Nigeria did this. Nigeria gave us this. This was when Nigeria, had a lot of resources that they exported. But right now, the story is a different one." So
I really think we still do, but our systems are not just working, to channel some of these resources that we have. But we hope this turn out for the better. And today is the International Day for the Girl Child.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It is very important for us to actually push for the evolution of the girl child, especially when it comes to education. A lot of girls, especially in rural areas, are actually lacking behind. And, education can go a long way at improving their lives here and, in rural areas as well.
Right. Now, the International Day for the Girl Child is declared by the United Nations. The day focuses on the need to address the challenges girls face and to promote girls' empowerment and the fulfillment of their human rights. This year focuses on the theme Digital Generation, Our Generation, calling for equal access to the internet and digital devices for girls and targeted investments to facilitate opportunities for girls' safety and meaningfully access, use, lead, and design technology. Now, the chosen theme targets digital inclusion because the pandemic has deepened the gender divide around connectivity and online safety, with girls facing economic and social barriers to internet and device access.
Okay, now lest we forget, October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Now, it is also an annual international health campaign organized by major breast cancer charities every October to increase awareness of this particular disease and also to raise funds for research into its causes, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and cure. Now, breast cancer is actually the most common cancer in women worldwide, as we all know. In Nigeria, with a population of about 187 million, it represents 12% of all cancer cases and 25% of all cancer in women. Talking about breast cancer.
It's really, the numbers are rising, particularly in Nigerian women, and I've seen a lot of campaigns, going like the Medicaid Cancer Foundation and all other organizations, all the campaigning against breast cancer and profiling solutions, some of those challenges that we have with cancer.
But how efficient are these campaigns? Exactly. How far or how wide do they actually go?
Exactly. It's another thing to have campaigns and it's another to see, the efficiency of some of these things that we see. But we hopefully, things turn out for the better.
Hopefully.
Well, right about now, we're going to go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to start the first segment of the show, which is the dailies on Daybreak. Stay with us.
My name is Samuel Dada.
Yakubu Isa. Ana mana kabila jeji.
Aminu Musa.
A wannan harkar ce muke dan samun abinci. An muke taimaka mu wasu da yawa.
Looking for private jobs. Sometimes you get employed and the process of payment, you undergo some kind of stress.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
From manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now let's take a look at the dailies today, and we have joining us Ben Chemeng from The Voice of Nigeria to review today's paper. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Zena.
Okay. Now let's start with our lead newspaper, which is the Daily Trust newspaper. We have Electoral Bill, Senate Reps Committee to meet this week for harmonization. We also have, this is not the time to break up Nigeria, that's according to Oshibajo. And on page 20, we have 2 years after federal government loses 24 billion to land border closure in Ogun. And the big headline right there says, Benue, Borno IDPs sacked by insecurity, fleeced by aid workers. And the rider is saying how sharp practices worsen matters. Another rider is saying female IDPs survive through prostitution in Borno. Officials deny neglect charge. We've built 10,000 houses for them. That's according to the federal government. And the documentary is going to be showing on Trust TV, channel 164, Start Time, and free to air. We also have Pandora, how Bishop Oyedepo set up company for wife, kids in tax haven. And we also have on page 36, despite release claim, Niger monarch still missing 1 month after. And on page 22, you'd find 2022, federal government votes 650 million for Mambila Power Project, 1.6 billion for Villa cars. These are some of the stories you find on the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, with that, we move on to Punch newspaper, and we have this headline here that reads, federal government to spend 44.64 billion naira on military equipment, arms, ammunition. We also have SAN writes Malami threatens suit over Nigeria's $62 billion with oil firms. We have the major headline here. That's a big headline. And it says, why federal government can't remove fuel subsidy now? NNPC marketers experts. And the writer here states, it will be disastrous to remove subsidy without refineries working, says Ipman. Another writer here states, subsidy now political matter, as Nigerians shouldering it, says ex-LCCI DG. And the final writer from that particular headline is no provision in 2022 budget, but petrol subsidy continues, declares NNPC. We also have other headlines. This one here says students merciless beating. Kwara orders Arabic school head suspension, raises panel. Another one here, NDLEA raids Lagos Oyo drug joints, others arrest 110 dealers. And a final headline, man arrested for allegedly defiling 13-year-old neighbor's daughter as wife goes for vigil. And these are the headlines from the Punch newspaper.
Okay, let's move on to the Nation newspaper this morning. You see on page 5, IU's entry reshapes PDP's chairs race. We also have terrorists colluding with bandits, says federal government. You also find on page 6, MTN suspects sabotage in network outage. 300,000 youth to get film production training. And the headline on The Nation this morning says CBN to banks. Review loans to oil and gas, agric, other sectors. And you also find Tinubu, I'm happy to be back home. And the writer is saying ex-governor reunites with associates. And right below the pictorial there where you see Tinubu and some of his associates, Buhari celebrates Tanzanian Nobel Literature Prize winner Ghana. These are some of the headlines on The Nation newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on and take This Day newspaper. We have a headline here that states, Tinubu says, only God can take my life. And the writer here says, Gbajabiamila, Sanwo-Olu, Olamilekan say work has started for task ahead. We also have this major headline here that states, Oshibajo saying, Buhari is Nigeria's most popular, only credible leader ever. And the writer here says, insists Nigeria better off united, optimistic nation will overcome challenges. And I think these are all the headlines we have on the front page of This Day newspaper.
Okay, so let's discuss some of the headlines on the papers this morning, starting with the one right here on the Daily Trust newspaper, which says Benue Borno IDP sacked by insecurity, fleeced by aid workers. We have seen, so many situations in IDP camps where, they are feeding from hand to mouth, and some of these, according to the report here says some of these female IDPs survive through prostitution. What is your assertion about this whole situation?
Honestly, this is at best what we would describe as tragedy of the ruled. You know, those days when kings, queens would die, say it's a tragedy. But today you are seeing the masses receiving, they are the receiving end. Imagine people indeed have been sent out of their natural abode. No means of survival. Come rain, come shine, they all are there. And there were even times you see Dangote sending quite a lot of aid in terms of either semovita, rice. But some of these things will be found in the markets. You know, something really is wrong with us in terms of this humanity in us. Man's inhumanity has become a thing that, no sanctity of life as it is. But we think that we should also try to ensure that and aid government to help these people. And what do I mean? If you check, there were times the governor of Borno State, Zulum, would visit these camps around 2 a.m. only to find out that only a few people are in camp, a few IDPs are in camp. But in the daytime, they all will rush back and begin to receive some handouts here and there. It's really not the best of the times. IDPs are cheating on the side of government. Some non-governmental agencies are also cheating. They are surviving based on the bad situations the IDPs are facing. This is what the white man or the proverb would call fishing in troubled waters. That it is only when some people are in a disadvantaged position that you begin to smile to the bank. Right. It's abnormal.
Okay. Now, talking about government intervention, they are saying they've built 10,000 houses for them.
Yes, absolutely. I have visited Maiduguri not once, not twice, and I've seen what the governor is doing, the current one, and even past ones. But sometimes I really wonder, some people find it hard moving to what you call secured environment, moving to what you call decent environment, decent houses, and it's just like some states too. You see mass housing here and there. Go to Kano, go to Katsina, but you realize that people still want to stay in urban slums when indeed there are, nice estates being built. We should begin to think and change our conduct and behavior at the point in time.
Okay. So could you comment of the government's move to repatriate these people back into community?
Absolutely, I support government. Yes, they should repatriate them to where they belong, but on condition that there is, security there. You can't push them there. You don't see civil defense corps there. You don't see the police there. You don't see the court system there. You don't see the local governments functioning. And it's when you see them there, you begin to have courage that if these government agencies can move there, they also can go in. So first of all, let there be security. Next, you have the facilities, and of course, let there be normal life. And I tell you, let the markets boom. Farming there, let there be assurance, and I think I'll support government with that.
Okay, before we move to the next paper, a lot of people have seen situations where you find a form of abuse within these IDP camps. Some of the relief materials that are being brought into those camps sometimes are being taken away from these people by some of the officials staying within that camp. What should the government do, to checkmate all of these activities within the camps?
Yes, there are always laws. Punitive measures will have to be there. And when you are bringing in relief materials, please label them. If this is coming from Zainab or Hussaina, label them so that people will know this is where they're coming from. When you just take some things without being identified, you just find them in the market. And of course, let people be punished. If you don't punish people, of course, this will continue. And Zainab, I want to tell you of experience. There were times that you could see some people receive relief materials. It's expected that it should last some 2, 3, 4 days before you return. But the following day, they return again. The third day, they return every day. And by the time those distributing simply say, Baba, look, you were here yesterday. The other day you were here. They just say, it doesn't concern you. It is our situation, not theirs. So if we begin to see living in refugee camps, or IDP camps rather, as a means of livelihood, I think we are missing the point. Schools are not open. Hospitals are not there. Everything, I mean, we shouldn't just be living from hand to mouth, begging to survive. And you can see why some ladies are going into prostitution to earn a living. It's not supposed to be so. It's abnormal.
Okay, let's move on to the major headline on Punch newspaper, and it's about the removal of fuel subsidy. Now, yesterday around town, there was a lot of panic buying, and fueling stations, a fueling station, Ipman and LCCI saying they will be going on strike despite the federal government, warning them not to. And then the ex-LCCI DG has actually said that subsidy is now a political matter. What is your take on this?
Yeah, honestly, when government does not want to offend the electorate, we'll talk of this subsidy. We have to do it because it's a requirement. Yes, government has to support people to live. But I think we'll be better off if there is a turnaround maintenance, what they call TAM of all the refineries. Are they operating at optimal level? You have the petrochemical, Kaduna, you go to Port Harcourt, Warri, 2 in Rivers State. They all are not working optimally. And it's sad if it is confirmed that at the point where Nigeria begins to do what they call trade by barter, you take the crude oil, bring us the refined one, and you can imagine the value chain. In crude oil, what do you have? The grease, you have even insecticide, you have quite a lot of other derivatives from crude oil. So if you just take this and you dash somebody and it gives you refined one, of course, that tells you you are not doing the correct thing. But happier thing, if it is true, the government says throughout the establishment of NNPC, it's only this year that they've made profit. So in making profit, what happened? How did it happen? When indeed we're talking of the refineries not working very well. So it also shows that if the refineries were to work at optimal level, the employment generation will be there, the tankers will be there, to avoid this kind of panic buying, where people will also be storing petrol in houses and thereby igniting fire and causing mayhem here and there.
Okay, now the NNPC is saying there is no provision for petrol subsidy in the 2022 budget. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, since NNPC is saying so, we cannot say no. And if you look at the books at the National Assembly in terms of appropriation, where is it? So that means that we are in a period where every Nigerian will have to tighten their belts because the flight will certainly take off. And when it takes off, of course, what we hope is not going to be a turbulent kind of sky. So we should, when government is talking like this, it follows that, of course, prices of these commodities will have to be increased. And in doing so, I think there's supposed to be enlightenment. Where is NOA, National Orientation Agency, then the Ministry of Information, Public Enlightenment Department, they all have to start conscientizing Nigerians, educating them, persuading them to ensure that, yes, this is what is needed, because the government actually needs money to take care of the infrastructure, as President Buhari said in this budget. So in terms of the media, it's the media too has what the agenda setting of in terms of role making. You set the agenda for government, educate the electorate. This is the thinking of government. If there are, however, dissenting voices, of course, if there are superior arguments, of course, the weaker one will bow. So that Nigeria moves forward. Just like Vice President Osubanjo is saying that this is not the time for Nigeria to break up. If I were him, I'll put it this way: Nigeria should not even break up. If we are saying this is not the time, it also means a time is coming that Nigeria will break. So I think that the correct thing should have been, this is not time. There's no time that Nigeria should break, because there's more in us gaining when we are together, because it takes the most easy time to destroy, but takes a longer time to build.
Okay, talking about budget, some experts have said, well, we could sell some of Nigeria's refineries and then some of our Eurobonds to fund the 2022 budget. Do you think this is a brave move to make?
Honestly, when it comes to commercialization or privatization, halfway or complete, we've seen it in some agencies where, take the case of NEPA, it was unbundled, and you created GenCos, generating companies. You created Discos, distributing companies, then transmission companies. But today, Zainab and Hussein, you realize that you pay more when it comes to, I mean, you've sold a company, and the company, you have people who are generating this electricity. But in terms of distribution, commercializing, there's a lacuna, there's a gap there. So it's easy for them to just fall under the innocent consumers and just say, look, the law says we should increase every so months, increase tariffs. So if we say we want to privatize or even sell out the refineries, who indeed are the buyers? And when we say we are selling them, look at the Ajaokuta company, for example. For how long? When Russia was Russia, the entire Russia, Ajaokuta came on board. People were saying, we'll make our cars, we'll make every iron rod. Today, at the point, they sold it to some Indians who indeed were taking some of the equipment away because they had bought the company, not until it was stopped. So the solution is really not, let's sell NNPC, the refineries. If we sell the refineries the way they are we sure the equipment to be used in this refining aspect, are they of modern technology? Or the buying company will say, look, in view of the fact that we have to change quite a lot of equipment, therefore cost of production is high, therefore we transfer that to the consumer. And so a lot of working will have to be done, and we are seeing that NNPC is already trying to key into Dangote refinery by buying some shares there. But when you think of that option, you already have 4 refineries. Let them work. And that's why, we have managers there. We cannot be talking of just people getting promoted in companies that are not functioning. We should be able to export refined oil to West Africa, to Africa in general. If you look at the level at which, people take this oil illegally to West African countries, that tells you there are demands somewhere. But where are the scientists in us? When we're talking of the recruitment pattern, do we just recruit those who are in administration, those who are into marketing, those who are in just community service? What about refining? What about the engineers? We should look at those aspects so that we pay attention to that aspect more rather than administration. You look at the staff overhang, how equitable are they? In terms of equal ratio, who is more? Is it the engineers who refine? So these are things that should be looked at and make the refineries work, not trying to sell some things that are not too well. They are not functioning so well.
Okay, so now the masses seem to be at the receiving end of certain government policies. Now, when it comes to this, right now, the masses are actually apprehensive at the fact that, they think that petrol would actually increase. What can the government actually do to, ensure that the masses, are...
Yes, you see, honestly, the best thing is to just make these refineries work. Because you cannot be increasing pump prices at all times, and the masses will be happy over it. Because the moment that is increased, there's always the boomeranging effect. Some galloping inflation, as the economists will say. Cost of transportation will increase. If a woman goes to buy maize, gari, in Edo or Maiduguri and brings to Abuja, at what price? Therefore, the buyer along the way will be the one to suffer. And so, if we have more of the commodity on ground, of course, inflation will be checked. Therefore, we also expect in terms of gross domestic product, we should see more of the economic activities in Nigeria. The markets are booming. Now they are being closed at a point. We're talking of the manufacturing, where indeed Nigerian manufacturers are crying out. There is no enough electricity. So if we have that, the manufacturing aspect will be booming, and you see that people are being employed. We are talking of farming. I mean, we are indeed, look at Benue, that prizes itself or tax itself as the food basket of the nation. Today, you see those places have been abandoned. If you go to Zakibiam, Ukum area, I mean, you see what they call yam heaps, almost like a story building, trying to make a statement. We are the yam producers of this nation. So if indeed the fight around those areas are stopped, I mean, you see that we can export this yam that West African countries and even Nigerians in the diaspora, the Africans, are looking for here and there. So if government actually takes care of many of these things, of course, it's going to be nice. Talking of even hospitals, primary health care, for example, we've been having rollback malaria. We had malaria summit here and there. And what is happening? When we can use the Neem-3 Dogonyaro to take care of, you fight desertification with it, and if we can get medicine from it to take care of malaria, why not? If the quinine content is in those things, and they are even saying that corona could be taken care of from that aspect, I think that it is a thing that the Nigerian government should support. They came out with the shelter belt to take care of Dogonyaro every year from Sokoto up to Maiduguri, that sea angle kind of. But we are seeing a lull. It's nose diving. You don't see the activities. So these are places people could be employed, the youth will be gainfully employed. I remember Bob Marley says, a hungry man is an angry man. And any hand that is waiting to be used could be used gainfully. And the youths, I tell you, if you create these opportunities, they will do wonders for Nigeria. Right. They constitute the population.
Right. Now, another eye-pinning headline is the one on the Nation newspaper, which says, CBN to banks, review loans to oil and gas, agri and other sectors. And they are saying this due to the fact that the financial market is undergoing a litmus test. What are your assertions about this?
In aviation circle, there is what you call headwind. If you are going this way and the wind is coming opposite you, it slows your movement. The Nigerian economy is facing the headwind. The wind is blowing against it. And when banks begin to pay attention more to big companies in terms of loans, I think they are missing it. And when you see individuals, check EFCC records and you see how much individuals owe banks, it is a serious matter. When indeed we should be looking at the loans to be given to farmers. We're talking of Lekki rice, for example, Lagos KB. If they can produce rice and we are seeing the big heaps of rice here and there, I think that it is a good thing. But in terms of loan, we should not be talking of collaterals for farmers, for God's sake. If a farmer owns this, if a district head can verify, can testify, can certify that this land belongs to this man and he wants to use it to farm, let him farm, you buy the commodity. And I saw that those days, during the Ahmed Makarfi days, when there were crises in Kaduna State, what did he do? He created farms and engaged the youth, formed some communities. 20, 25, 30 of you, they give you pieces of land, and the farm, their government will go and buy, and they made those youths to be engaged, and they had money, and crisis went down there. So in terms of these loans, we should not make the conditions so stiff. Bring collaterals, your land is not registered. Most of lands in Nigeria are not registered. These are lands without titles. But when you're talking of titled lands, it's then you can get, loans. We are missing the point. If you go Abuja Kaduna Highway, Lokoja Abuja Highway, Kefi Highway, you begin to see how many people are just rushing to grab this land. They grab the land, they are not using them, they are not farming. And that is where we'll also be talking of modern day in terms of rearing cows, fish farming. We're talking of dry season farming. If all the while the rains will come and sweep the farms during the rainy season, why don't we have the dams, why don't we imbibe dry season farming, for God's sake, so that before the rain comes, we've harvested and everybody moves to highland. And we should be able to capture our environment. I tell you quickly, I remember there was a time I was shaking seriously. There was heavy cold in Bonn, Germany. I just said, oh, the weather is bad today. They all chorused and replied me, there's always never a bad weather. There's always bad dressing. Right. I should have monitored the environment to dress very well. So Nigerian government should also key into this.
Now, agriculture, the agricultural sector is a very, very important sector. Don't you think a review of some of the strategies to farmers is going to affect human capital development?
Yeah, you see, when you review, of course, when they say a law is injurious, you change it. You make it people friendly. So when you review, you will not review to make it punitive. You will review to make it so hard. You will review to make it stringent that the farmers cannot just make it. Rather, you make it people friendly. You have cottage industries here and there. If there are states that can actually take care of some commodities, I mean, you should be able to pay attention. If Plateau will give us the Irish potato we can think of in Nigeria, pay attention to that. Pay attention to farmers who indeed are doing those farming. If in Kaduna State we can go into ginger farming, and that's the place we can have it, why not? We have cocoa in the southwest. Why not pay attention to all of these things? You now go to Niger Delta areas, palm oil, they all are there. We should not be deceived by this oil thing. Oil is like a well, you go get a container, you fetch, okay, it's not going down. But we have seen that oils are drying in some of our villages. So it goes that whatever is a deposit over there in liquid form, at the point it disappears. So it's for us, look, let's take research seriously. What are research agencies doing in terms of this? And when they bring findings, government should also take that seriously. Apart from that, who indeed are the investors? We should be able not just to feed our country, feed the nation. We should export food, for God's sake. Today they are saying open the borders so that food prices will go down. If therefore we are simply going to begin to bring rice again to Thailand and some other Vietnam and US, these are people who indeed have stored rice for 5 years, 10 years. They didn't see famine in their areas, no hunger around. They don't cast their vision far and wide. It's not, therefore they push it to us and we just go buy and shop rice, you cross leg and say this is imported rice. when indeed you can buy rice that is farmed this year, you harvest this year, you eat it this year. It's sweeter, it's the best. It's like getting your vegetable from farm, you wash, and it's in the pot, of course, go to the kitchen within a day. You get the best nutrients. But when we begin to say imported, honestly, we should begin to start looking inwards. We should be able to start providing for us what we should want.
Okay, now one final question. Now the federal government seems to focus more on the oil and gas and agri sector. Are there other sectors that you think they can invest in?
Honestly, security is still key. Because you can invest in oil and gas, you can invest in agriculture, but you see, security is key. Education is key. If Boko Haram is saying modern education is sacrilege, it's forbidden, and we are busy closing down schools, it's like we are playing to their wishes. We should say no. So we expect that security, if Southwest would come up with Ametokum, and it appears to be working, the entire states. Up north, we are still saying no to some of these things. But I can see that Katsina is taking a lead. I can see that Kano is also following in terms of ensuring that there is security. If we therefore begin to use what we call the agro-rangers of the Civil Defense Corps, and of course, let people of sound character, sound minds, stakeholders begin to have summits. These farmers' herders cannot continue forever. We cannot. What went wrong 20 years before now? Did we have all of this? People who wanted to relax will also say, let's go to the plateau. The joy of the savannah, you go to Adamawa State. Home of peace. You go to Kaduna, center of learning. You begin to witness quite a lot of tourism. But there has to be peace. Let there be peace. And at this point, I think that the Police Service Commission and the IG that always go to court challenging one another for the same regime, for the same job, I think it does not augur well. They should support the president of Nigeria. And I can see, we had a chat with the Minister of Information just on Friday. Zainab, if you check some of these bus stops, the rate at which people are selling swords, long swords, daggers, machetes, bow and arrow, they are in bus stops. Something is happening. There has to be a mop-up of what you call not just these small arms, the unregular ones. We're talking of even den guns. These things are found in the streets. You find youths with sharp knives. You see them well dressed, but what is by their sides? You have sharp knives. Right. So these are things that should be checked, because if there's a fight somewhere, of course, everyone to himself. We don't want a state of anarchy in Nigeria. Right. And that's why we are saying together it should be. The Nigerian spirit remains one, right. The United Nations.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Ben Chemang from Voice of Nigeria. We hope to have you next time on the show.
My pleasure.
Well, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Right after this short break, we're going to be discussing the new malaria vaccine. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
All right, welcome back. This is Daybreak on Trust Television. If you are just joining us, we do this every weekday on Trust TV. Now, malaria is a major disease burden in Africa. In Nigeria alone, 61 million cases of malaria are recorded annually. It accounts for 40% of hospital visits, 20% on the 5 mortality rate, and 11% maternal deaths, according to statistics. 11 persons die from malaria every hour. Now, the cheering news, however, is when World Health Organization announced approval for the first malaria vaccine for children. The vaccine is 40% efficient, though not a standalone prevention against the disease. To discuss the efficacy of the vaccine, we have in the studio Dr. Ikot Ndeyo, a medical practitioner and Executive Secretary, FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly.
No problem. It's fine, probably 26 letters.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. Now, what was your reaction when you learned the WHO's approval of the vaccine?
Yeah, it was a cheering news, and believe everybody out there should be very happy for this development. It's a long-awaited breakthrough in malaria, in the fight against malaria.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about the availability, of the vaccines to Nigerians. Do you think it's going to be readily available, just like the COVID-19 vaccine we're having right now?
Oh, sure. What permits me to congratulate the Media Trust for this outfit. I'm having this for the first time. You guys have been out there doing a very great job on your print media, and I must confess. Your support, the AUJ, FCT, supporting the COVID-19 rollout in FCT has been enormous.
Thank you.
So, but the opportunity I'm having now is not just to talk about malaria parasites and vaccination and control of malaria, but also to deepen our sensitization on uptake and utilization of other vaccines. But then I want to say that we are just coming from a pilot program from 3 countries where were Malawi, Kenya, and Ghana. About just 800,000 people, children, put on this, and the rollout is gradual, it's staged, and it's prioritized. So availability, maybe in terms of cost, and government, the areas that malaria is ravaging are really the areas that are, will I say, developing in quotes, and they may not have the resources to produce massively in country. So they have got to depend on other providers, other producers to have vaccines for their people that need them most. And just like any other vaccines that we have in this country, the cost of transportation, of the freighting cost, and the cost of the logistics to make sure that it reaches those that the most need are really the issues. And hopefully, as we progress in the rollout,
Okay.
government must, as a matter of priority, key to this. And this is where partnership is also very great. Remember, the vaccines did not just come from an individual.
Right.
It was a consortium,
Yes.
of experts, global experts, and Vaccines Alliance. So I cannot see one country government alone doing it. So just like other vaccines, I expect partners in country, particularly those foundations that have been helping us, assisting us. You just come up from eradication of the polio virus in this country, and you know the role that many of our partners played, development partners and funders.
Right.
So hopefully, this has been on the table for so many years. So partners will key into that.
Okay, now there has been sensitizations, a lot of sensitizations on the use of mosquito-treated nets.
Yes.
With the emergence of the new vaccine, is there going to be, still more sensitization on the use of nets since we have the new vaccine?
Thank you so much. Just as I said, this is going to be a sensitization meeting with you on Trust TV. And let me put it this way, that people have to understand the approaches that one must adopt in public health to protect public health. Community health is very important. That you must understand what are the ramifications of the control measures. And now we are looking at the elimination of the malaria parasites in Africa. And one will not have only one approach. When we were doing the polio, we were doing surveillance, we were doing routine immunization, we were doing focused, and very high quality campaigns. So when it comes to malaria, you have mentioned there was rollback malaria when this net came in, and you agree with me that in this part of the world that people had the nets. WHO, I think WHO advocated for UNICEF for 2 nets per household. But now what do we have? You may not even have enough of that, the cost of mosquito nets. And even when you have the mosquito nets, utilization.
Right.
And I can also remember some households living below $1 a day. We're also looking at mosquito. If I buy mosquito nets, I'm giving mosquito nets free, 1,500 in the market. I don't have a kobo. Why can't I sell? So many things happen there. But all the same, all other approaches to control malaria must be in place.
Right, okay.
Vaccines are given into your system. So they are priming you against the parasites that have come into you. So there are other ones that will prevent even the bites from the mosquitoes from happening. And there are those other ones that will also prevent the mosquitoes from breeding, in order not to even have the opportunity to be there to bite you.
Right.
So all those layers of prevention must be in place and highly utilized or observed by individuals, particularly those who are living in these endemic and high transmission zones.
Okay, could you talk to us about the status of the seasonal malaria chemo prevention therapy? What is the status of that?
Malaria is not new to anybody in this country. But if we want to even go down to break down the episodes, we are talking about the number of bites an individual in a high transmission zone will experience in a year. You are looking at transmission of the parasites occurring all throughout the year, but seasonal spikes, just as we have observed. And you are looking at efforts to enlighten people to, when you see we are living in a situation that you are having this scourge of neglected tropical diseases, ravaging schistosomiasis, all those diseases that are preventable, putting people down and biting into the pulses of people. And you're having malaria that is almost taken as part of our lives. People would be born with malaria at birth, and they grow up without knowing what good health feels like. And they die with that, without ever knowing how good health is like.
Right.
Because they came to accept malaria infections as normal. So going forward, the time has come again that we pay greater attention in empowering people to actively understand the parasites and the scourge that has been with humanity, particularly in this part of the world, and Asia and some parts of Central and South America and Caribbeans, so people to know that these are all preventable diseases. And you want to prevent with chemotherapy, the cost is so high that you are looking up to about $200 per episode of treatment. And then we were using chloroquine earlier, and it was very cheap. By that time, with 100 naira to say, you can treat an adult for malaria. But now with the ACTs and other combinations recommended by the malaria control programs in this country, you see that people cannot afford that, puts it in line with the purchasing powers of our people. So they need to have a concerted approach to this with prevention, deliberate personal prevention with the vaccination. I believe the children who are very vulnerable, who are more prone to severe diseases, would be having a new lease of life, and life expectancy, particularly those under 5 years, would be much more improved. So we have so many chemotherapies that could be applied to as a preventive approach, and in as much as they may be effective for people not coming in, they still need that when you have fever, you're taking Palodrin, you are taking 5-6 particularly for women that are pregnant, but they still come down with the malaria sickness. Right. And so that is why medical practice in the tropics, where malaria abound, or it's really scorched, high transmission all year round with episodes of spikes. Right. Doctors, medical professionals practicing here should be informed and upgraded, ideology upgraded every time, because of the changing pattern of the parasites.
Right. Okay, sir. Can you tell us about, let's talk about the protection rates. Its protection rates, that's the vaccine's protection rate. It's quite low at 40%. Mm-hmm. Should we be worried about that?
Yes, that is why we said that one vaccine alone cannot do it. Mm-hmm. And look at that for about a year of having this vaccine, we expect about 56% protection. Then up to 4 years, 36% protection. These are quite low. But by the time you combine that with sleeping under the mosquito, long-acting insecticidal nets, and then you are also making sure that your environment is kept well, clean and dry, so that you don't have pockets of ponds and puddles that will encourage the breeding places for the parasites or for the mosquito, for the vector. Then you will see that this contribution of the vaccine itself means a lot to the survival of the individual that has been exposed to the vaccination. And this risk we are talking about is even for people that are not sleeping under the mosquito nets. Mm-hmm. So by the time you combine these other protective, preventive measures, then the proportion of people that will come down with severe sickness, or that will even come down with the malaria infection, malaria parasite infection, will be much more improved.
Okay, now budgetary provisions allocate more money to security, education, and infrastructure. Now, do you think if health is given the needed attention, we can actually eradicate many diseases such as this malaria?
You don't have security without health. But health itself is the key to security. The security personnel themselves will also need to be healthy. We want healthy and productive residents of citizens in this country. So by the time we are giving so much to other sectors and little to health, and we cannot do anything in the health sector, those people will just be dwindling in health status, and that security we are looking for. Imagine somebody having the manpower, the man hours that are lost for you having malaria. Some people having up to 3 or 4 episodes of malaria in a year. And you have seen other, those as I talked about, the neglected tropical diseases that are also not being taken care of appropriately. These are the parasites that are biting deep into people residents in this country. And if you don't allow the structures and systems that are put in place, not just at the secondary and tertiary, but the primary subsector of health, where the community participation the community managerial structure for health system management would be put in place. If you don't achieve that, forget about security.
Okay. Now, many will say the discovery of this vaccine should have been here earlier. And earlier you were talking about the dynamics, of the malaria parasite. Could you walk us through some of the challenges?
Yes, it was our wish that the vaccines could be here, but remember that we are dealing with a parasite. Right. This parasite, the Plasmodium parasite, is so fluid, so many variants, and they also change even in the course of producing the sickness.
Right.
So that it became difficult for scientists to people. And remember, this vaccine we are having is only for one type of the parasite. That is the falciparum. No, falciparum is very important. It's the one that is more virulent. Going to the brain, causing convulsions in children under 5 years and killing them, multi-organs involvement. So having a vaccine that will deal with that one is quite good. It's a good start. But remember that we also have others, Plasmodium malaria and Vivax. We have Ovale, and then we have even the... so sorry, I should work with this, the Norlis. So, but then, when you have had the falciparum that would cross the placental barrier, that is the one that will lead to abortion. That is the one that will get to the fetus before the fetus is even born. We have something that is known as congenital malaria.
Right.
So this is a very key vaccine that we have now. But we still believe that there will be a multivalent, vaccine. And we are going to have others, parasites, that is the other types of the parasites integrated, and we have the polyvalent vaccine that can take care of this, because if you don't do that, you may be dealing with this one, while the other ones will now take precedence. And remember, the mutation of the parasite is very high. And you must also strengthen the quality of treatment. I'm sorry to say. You look at the SCT that we are taking now, that is, some people call Abatem, Coartem, all kind of, all those artemether-based, artemisinin-based chemotherapy. The half-life, is 12 hours, but you are expected to give a loading dose on day one. So before it is that the 12 hours comes in, you give the 8-hour dose for the day. What is the treatment? And the second day you can give the 12-hourly dose for another 2 days. But you see, you go to the hospital, they prescribe for you twice a day for 3 days. It will never work, because those are like maintenance doses. So the health personnel will also have to update themselves, and the clients, people that are down, who need help, should also know that you can also read the pamphlet, on this thing, and then you are better informed. So you may not necessarily, if the health personnel has goofed or did not do the needful, and you have gone through the pamphlet, you can now, or the leaflet inside that, you can now ask him, why did you not tell me this? Should I take it this way? And he will come back to remember that he did not give you complete information. Right. So this is part of the issues that we have in chemotherapy, because if you don't give the appropriate dose, the parasite, as I said, can change rapidly. So this will encourage the parasite to even swim inside the chemotherapy and mutate into another variant that the resistance we are talking about can occur.
Okay.
So
now you find out people treating malaria 3-4 times in a month.
Yes.
That's quite
a month.
Terrible. Yes. So for people, particularly people in local communities, what are some of these things they can do to protect themselves?
Yes, local communities. When we talk about rural areas, villages, that is where this thing is situated. And but I know very well that people in town at times they overlook things that the neighbors do, that having to protect screening of your windows and doors and stuff, and having to sleep on that, because one mosquito that gets through your net, because when they have not had the blood meal, the vector is very small. It can go into any very small opening, and gets into your house, but immediately it starts having the blood meal, it grows and will not be able to go out again. So it remains there to feed on you and other people in the house. But when you go to the villages that you may not have the leisure of going through the standards of public health on housing, the lighting, the ventilation, and other stuff, then you see bushes all over, waste management, solid waste. Waste are thrown all over the place and other stuff. So you see people coming up with frequent episodes, and then in that kind of environment, may not necessarily be malaria alone that will cause the fever. Okay, people living where open defecation is also practically concordant with salmonellosis. That is where the so-called typhoid fever, and by the time you do the stool cultures and other stuff, so that is why you are advised that, and we actively let people, the clients, the communities, people, no matter where you live, that you must remember that if you begin the treatment for malaria, after all, malaria then is evidence-based. You do the rapid diagnostic test, that we are taking just a small drop of your blood, and the result is, and then before you are treated for that. That is the standard now. But perchance you want to go on clinical symptoms after 3 days of taking the treatment, the chemotherapy accordingly, and you are still sick, there is need that you must see a doctor if it was a simple malaria. So somebody that is saying that he's treating malaria every month, one, you may not be taking the appropriate chemotherapy, you may not be taking the dosage appropriately, and two, it may not necessarily be malaria only. So you've got to also go for a laboratory investigation and see the doctor, and the doctor should also be very free with clients. We insist that clients should ask questions. Now that we're having internet, we have Googling of everything, people are well informed, but they still need an expert advice. And I like that. So the doctors too, the health personnel should also be Googling, and should also go to internet so that they will also know the range of information that is put out there, and try to be above that information to be useful to the client that is in front of you. Because if you don't do that, then there's going to be a gamut of confusion, and the person is going back there not knowing what to do, and taking into consideration that your sickness comes from your environment. Right. So we should let you know what your complaint that you are giving to be, where it should be coming from, where you live.
Okay.
Very important.
Well, I'm actually really curious to ask this. You stated earlier that the research for this vaccine started a few years ago in...
30 years, over 30 years.
30 years,
yes.
Okay. But, it was, the research was done in a few countries, Malawi, Kenya, Ghana. I'm curious to know why Nigeria wasn't included, considering the statistics and the number of deaths caused by malaria in the country.
Let us even go there yet. Let us take it this way. That, okay, you see the flu, the COVID-19 vaccines that we are having now. For economic cost, that you are having the sickness, you're having the virus, and you have been able to sit down in your home, and scientists in your home have been able to put these things together, and they have produced vaccine. It is cost effective for them. Then we are having the parasites. In fact, the wrap up in the population is the transmission is all year round with spikes and everything. We show the classical malaria endemic country in the world. So this is where our scientists could have, taken the initiative. But we have issues of research that is very important. Funding, as we have just talked about, funding of health services, commitment, political will, that you have got to put money there after appropriate evidence-based advocacy. And I don't even see why a politician in Nigeria should wait for a scientist to tell him that you need to do this. So, as a matter of expediency, and for us to reach out to our children, our pregnant women, know that many of our pregnant women were once children, and they are also having their menstrual flow. They are losing blood through parasites, the malaria parasites, every month. and they are also being afflicted. They go into pregnancy with low blood. So you see many deaths, maternal deaths, abortion of stuff coming from fevers, preventable maternal deaths. So this is enough burden for us, to begin to look at this. I know that the parasites may need further developed advanced sciences to help you do the vaccine. But we have the parasites here, and any color that the parasites would show could only be seen here. So we should begin to think in that line. I like that. I believe that the politicians, the policy makers, we are part of that. But you can only do a bit and let others, carry on from where you have done.
Okay.
So the building blocks must continue. So I believe that with this step, there are some scientists, some parasitologists in this country, some professors who have been part of even this research that has brought the result.
Right.
So the point is to do it in country. I think that is all what we are looking for.
Okay.
But
Now the COVID-19 pandemic has taught the world quite a lesson,
Absolutely.
and that we need to prepare more, particularly in Africa. Is this a call for more manufacturing of vaccines to prepare for future occurrences of some of these?
Yes, manufacturing of vaccine, research for vaccines is a continuous process, and what we are having now is based. We just talked about flu, that the coronavirus had been there, but this type 2 is new, so they only had to go to the building block that what they made, and then did the genome, that is the analysis of the genetic composition of this new strain, and they were able to bring up the vaccine. We're having flu shots before COVID-19. So that is why the vaccine came out so soon, and we are rolling it out. So for now, for Africa, we never had that strain of flu virus here. So it's going to cost us much working on the vaccine for COVID here. Okay, but over there that they have already had flu births, it was easier for them, for scientists to put 2 or 3 together and then brought out what we are having. I know that there are so many of them, but just few have been approved for emergency use.
Right.
And
Okay.
others are still being developed.
Okay, now talking about the COVID-19 vaccine, there's actually been, a lot of hesitancy, yes, on the COVID-19 vaccine. Do you anticipate same for the malaria vaccine?
Remember when we were telling people to take the vaccine but the advent of the malaria vaccine is timely. Because people were, government is not doing anything about malaria. When I got this news 5 days ago, I was, look, this is what we have been looking for. Everybody malaria vaccine, everybody malaria vaccine. So I don't see any hesitancy here. And hesitancy in COVID vaccination is becoming obsolete. It's making somebody look weird now. If you say that you're hesitant now, because we were depending on evidence from Europe, Americas, UK, but now we have in-country evidence that this vaccine is safe. Look at, have you been vaccinated? We have been vaccinated. We are more the percent of people. The president of this country has been vaccinated. So I was just looking at it that anybody that is going about that telling people to be not to take the vaccine is becoming obsolete, and you look like a freak. Right. So it's no more a book. So let us not even talk about that. But for the malaria vaccines, I'm very sure it's a four dose thing at 5 months, 6, 7 months, then a year, at 18 months, then you take the different one. Is expected to give you up to about 4 years protection with the proportion that I said, 56% in the first year, and up to 36% by the fourth year. And I believe that is fair enough when you combine it with other preventive with quality chemotherapy.
Right.
I believe that.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
on the show, Dr. Iwot Indeyo, a medical practitioner and the Executive Secretary, FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Quite an insightful discussion.
I should time.
We hope to have you next
time.
Trust
for this opportunity. And I will be available always to come in here, and our partnership should be strengthened.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and we have been discussing the new malaria vaccine and its efficacy. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we're going to discuss the next segment of the show. Stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, International Day of the Girl Child is observed every year on October 11th to create increased awareness to access to education, nutrition, legal rights, medical care, and protection against discrimination and other vices the girl child faces in everyday life. Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children in Africa, and half or more than half of these numbers are females. Now, girls from 5 to 16 years are vulnerable to issues of sexual violence and child marriages. The current spate of insecurity has made things even worse. Now, to discuss the issues affecting the girl child, we have in the studio Aisha Hamman, a lawyer and founder of Lift Africa. You're welcome to the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's
All
nice
right,
to have you.
Yeah. All right. So, quick question, Aisha. Now, due to poor background, many embrace street hawking to support their families, and in doing so, the girl child becomes vulnerable to assault and also violence. Now, this practice is still prevalent in the 21st century, we all know that, yet every year we observe the International Day for the Girl Child. What is responsible for this failure?
Well, if you look at it, I would attribute that to the northern part of Nigeria because it's more prevalent in northern Nigeria. I think it has to do with a lot of vulnerability on the part of the parents, a lack of awareness on the part of the communities, and on our own part as well, we're not doing a lot. The government, we have laws in place. We have laws like the Child's Right Act that is against child labor. We have a lot of we have a lot of laws in place to protect the child, but none of this is implemented properly. And we need to do more as people, as government, as private sector, and as non-governmental organizations to ensure that these laws are practiced. So even at that, we also need to create awareness on the part of the people in the society to ensure that these children are not subjected to these forms of abuses, because that's child abuse, if you ask me.
Okay. Now, the theme for this year's International Day of the Girl Child is Digital Generation, Our Generation. What do you think this theme aims to address?
Okay, the theme, every year has a theme, and we know that the International Day of the Girl Child was specifically set out to address the issues of lack of education, gender parity, among other things. This year's theme is specifically to bridge the gap, the gender gap, when it comes to girls' access to digital learning, digital using and owning devices. Because if you look at the United Nations report, about 2.2 billion people, even in the post-COVID era, about 2.2, where businesses, if you look at businesses, education, and even some parts of healthcare has moved to the internet because of the COVID. About 2.2 billion people still do not have access to internet at homes. And Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world, we have about 94 million people that are living below $2 a day. And if you look at that numbers, even though the girl child or the women or the female population is just a little under 49% of the whole population, we have about 70% of these people that constitutes the number of people living below the average, living below $2 a day. So this has affected the gender gap, bridging the gender gap, because girls do not have access to internet, girls do not have access to devices. Even when you are aware that during the COVID, some state governors have put in place emergency plans to allow access to education, girls still do not have access to education. And I think the reason why this year's theme is to address the gender gap is because of the lack of access of girls to the use of internet and devices.
Okay. How would you describe the status of gender parity in Nigeria?
Okay. You know, the International Day of the Girl Child has more or less removed girls under the umbrella of women. So we're going to focus on girls. We have about 13.2 million out-of-school children, and girls constitute about 60% of the numbers. So this tells you that we need to do a lot of work to address this. I, for one, go to the grassroots communities. We have seen girls, I have seen first-hand cases of girls being taken out of school to be married off. And when you talk about sexual and gender-based violence, it's not just about being physically abused or assaulted. It has a lot to do with child marriage. It has a lot to do with lack of education. It has a lot to do with child labor. You see a lot of girl child, even in northern Nigeria, being taken to people's houses to go work as maids. This has affected our productivity. We know that women are supposed to be the backbone of every family and the bedrock of the nation. But the case is different in Nigeria because we have been, since time immemorial, we've seen the likes of Queen Amina, people that have come out to fight for the nation or for the community. But like we have more or less been stereotyped to just be reduced to nothing but objects, to be reduced to nothing but being women, being housewives and mothers. I would give you a flashback of what happened, I think 2 years ago when the president came out and his wife was trying to talk about politics or something thereabout. And he came out and said he does not know where the political party that his wife belongs, but he knows she belongs to the kitchen, the living room, and the other room. Forgive my use of French. But you can see that even in the civilized communities, we have reduced the status of women to just being mothers and wives, and forgetting that if you invest in a woman, it is going to boost the GDP of every nation, not just Nigeria. So I think we're still lagging behind, even though the World Economic Forum has, in its latest report, has said that women participation in a lot of things has significantly improved, but we still need to do more in Nigeria because even looking at the political participation, both in elective and appointed positions, women are still lagging behind. I think we have about just 6.9 participation in political, in politics, both in elective and appointed positions. We have just 6 ministers in the present cabinet, which is very poor, which is very low. So we need to do a lot.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at the forced marriages. You know, they've actually disappeared after sustained sensitization, but girl-child marriages are still obtainable in some rural communities. Now, what can be done to change the narrative?
Okay. I think, first off, we need laws. We need laws. I know about the FAB Act. It's there, and it talks about early marriage. We need to push for implementation of these laws first. Secondly, we need to again create awareness on the part of the communities and the parents to ensure that they do not subject these children to early marriages. I have seen cases, I think Zainab is aware, I have seen a case of a girl that has she has very good results. She got very good results, but because the norm in the society is that she has to get married at the age of 16, she cannot further her education. So this tells you that not just, and this is not even in rural communities, these things are still happening, even in urban communities, because that one happened in Jigawa State, not in a village. It was in Jigawa, in a town in Jigawa State. So it goes a lot to tell you that we need to create more awareness on the importance of not putting pressure on women, on girls, on young girls to get married, because it's not the ultimate. The more you grow, the more you invest in yourself, the more you empower yourself as a woman, the more you improve yourself, the more chances of getting a better husband. We need to make them understand that women or girls are not just a return of investment, because take it or leave it, more or less, that's what they think. You give birth to a girl, she grows up, you train her to be a wife and a mother, so her husband can take care of the family and can take care of the girl. They don't invest, no skills, no jobs, nothing, no education. Right. So we need to create a lot of awareness to ensure that these things do not happen anymore. Okay. But it's going to be a very long and tedious process, I believe.
Right. Now, according to President Buhari, the 2022 budget is the first in Nigeria's history where MDAs were clearly advised on gender-responsive budgeting. Do you think this is going to be like a game changer?
It will, if the necessary steps are taken, because women contribute to the economic growth of every nation. And I think if the MDAs and every organization will ensure that there's proper remuneration, there's proper implementation, there's proper awareness, creating awareness on SGBV issues. When you're being abused at the workplace, you can come out and speak. If that is ensured, I think there's going to be a lot of difference. That will make a difference, and hopefully, I hope it works. I hope it is taken into consideration.
Okay. Now, we all know that, violence against women and girls, but we'll focus on girls, spikes during crisis or, insecurity, such as what we see in Nigeria. What can actually be done to prevent such violence and support the girls?
Well, okay. First off, education. The more you're educated, the less likely for you to be assaulted, taken advantage of, and abused. Secondly, we need to empower women, not just educate them. We need to empower them to understand that they can be anything, they can do anything, they can achieve anything. Another thing we can do is to create avenues where, when you're abused or when you're violated, you can come and speak up. Because if you look at northern Nigeria, we always talk about these things, but when these people are abused, when they're subjected to these forms of abuse, they hardly come out and speak because of the fear of stigmatization. We need to make them understand that it is not just a physical damage that is done to the child. There's also mental damage. The issue of mental health has been springing up nowadays, and we're realizing that as much as we know that in rural communities the issue of mental health is not even taken seriously. They attribute it to spiritual attack or whatnot. So these things, we need to make them understand that they need to speak up, because it doesn't just do damage to their physical bodies. It also does damage to their mental health, and it can be a lifetime trauma. So we need to create safe spaces where they can come and talk about the issues, the things that they've experienced. We also need to make them understand that the girl is not, it's not a crime against just one person, it's a crime against the state. So we have to ensure that justice is served, and we also need to push for an avenue where maybe we can resort, because our courts are congested. We need to push for ways that these cases can be treated quickly, because I have a case that I've been handling in Sokoto State. It's been 2 years now. The case was taken to court last year, and it's been almost 2 years now. And I think we got an opening for the defense to come in and bring their case last week. So it goes to tell you that even if the children or the parents decide to speak up or decide to take the issue to court, even the courts are congested. So it's going to be very frustrating, very demanding, and very, very slow for you to get justice. So these are the things we need to ensure that are put in place so people don't get discouraged.
Right. It can be quite challenging being a lawyer and also, impacting the lives of girls. Let's talk about Lift Africa. What has your organization done in the lives of some of these young girls?
Okay. Education is the most powerful tool that can be used to transform lives. First off, our pilot project with Lift Africa since its inception in 2018, we called it From Streets to Classes. That was our first project, and it goes to take children off the streets and back to school. And our focus was on the girl child hawkers. And as at last month of September, we have been able to partner with the Global Partnership for Education, the ministries of education of various states, Kano State, Sokoto State, Jigawa State, Bauchi, and some northeastern states of Nigeria. We've been able to take out of about 3,000. We have about 2,753 children that are under the scholarship. And the last phase that we've done was in Kano State, and that was in September. The last phase of it all, we were able to take about 300 girls out of off the streets and back to school in Kano State. And this was achieved through partnership with the Global Partnership for Education, the USAID, and other Nigerian education plans that we have in place. So apart from that, we also invest in food security, post-harvest. We empower smallholder farmers, and we also train food processors, especially in Kano State, on people that are processing rice. We teach them how to process their rice in an improved way. We empower them with machineries, and we even partnered with the Norwegian Refugee Council, yes, because they have a focus on food security. So in 2020, October last year, we were able to empower about 240 women on improved rice processing, groundnut oil, maize, and maize flour, and yes, rice. So apart from that, we also create safe spaces, like we have a sexual assault referral hub.
Oh, wow.
Hotline, rather. We're trying to partner with some organizations to see that we get a hub where people can come when they are abused. So we have a hotline because Kano is the hotspot for SGBV. We know, even though we've seen the effort of the Canadian High Commission partnering with some organizations to create referral centers, but we still need to do more, because every day you go to court, you see more people coming to court being sexually abused. So we have done that. We also talk to girls. We've even this week we're going to have a program with one of the secondary schools in Abuja on this to commemorate the International Day of the Girl Child. So these, among other things, are the things we do to empower women and girls.
Okay, before we wrap up the segment, what is your message on this day?
Well, my message is simple. To every young girl watching this, to every young woman watching this, I want them to believe and to know that they are unstoppable. One. Secondly, the more you go to school, the more you develop yourself, your career, the more you improve yourself, the more chances of you becoming better, and the more chances of you having a better husband. Because even if you don't get married, you can always fall back on something. So there's nothing that will stop you as a girl. You need to just believe in yourself, empower yourself. You don't need a man to be seen. I am not trying to be a feminist here, but you don't need a man to be seen, as against the stereotype by the society that whatever you achieve in life, you have to have a man beside you. We're not against marriage, but girls need to understand that with or without a man, you can be anything. That is my message.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We have been talking the International Day of the Girl Child with Aisha Haman, a lawyer and founder of Lift Africa. We hope to have you next time on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you are watching Daybreak on TUS Television. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be discussing what's trending. Stay with us.
This is the spot, a marking signifying the starting point of the dam.
40. No compensation has been given to any community member, and no place has been earmarked for their relocation.
Since why they go, they never come back.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed. But for many years, the story has remained the same.
This is the site of the proposed hydroelectric power station in Mambila. But the irony is, no construction has even commenced yet.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Now it's time for what's trending, and let's take a look at what is trending. A video actually surfaced online showing some Islamic school male students lashing out on a girl who, according to reports, disobeyed school orders. Let's have a look. Oh, this is a really disheartening video. Zainab, what do you think about this? Because I can't seem to fathom this intense form of abuse.
It's devastating, you know, looking at that video. But I'm glad that the Kwara State government is actually looking into the matter, and they are setting up a panel to look into that Islamic school. Because according to reports, they said the head of that school has been suspended.
Wow.
And I hope something is actually done, you know, to curtail some of this situation, or else we're going to see a series of this happening over and over again.
Now, this is the reason why we actually need to push for the education of the girl child, because as a girl, once you're educated and you know your rights, you won't take, you know, this form of abuse. You will not take things such as this.
Right.
Like, it's really, it's crazy. Seeing the lashes or the lash scars, you know, on the boy's back, I can't imagine, you know, what the girl must be going through.
I think we also need to look into the methods of punishment, you know,
Exactly.
we see in some of these, not just Islamic schools, we see a lot of this in boarding schools as well.
Exactly, yes.
So I think the government need to look into this, you know, to find other means, you know, of punishing students.
And it's also a good thing that if you take a look at some schools these days, most schools have actually clamped down on floggings. Yes, you know, there are other ways of punishing
Right,
students,
right.
other types of discipline that you can actually, you know, take, or the measures you can take to discipline a student rather than flogging them mercilessly, because this is what I call merciless beating.
Terrible indeed.
Merciless beating.
Okay, right about now, let's take a look at sports in 60 seconds. Okay, Sports in 60 is not ready. Well, with this, we've come to the end of Daybreak for today. We've been discussing the International Day for the Girl Child.
Malaria vaccine.
Indeed. And it's been quite insightful as well. If you missed, you can link with us on all of our social media platforms where we do this on weekdays from Mondays to Fridays.
Yes. All right, I remain Dashan Husseina Usman. It was fun hanging out with you, and I'll definitely see you tomorrow.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for sticking with us.